Hello, welcome back to the show. Today we have Riana Milne here, and she is just an outstanding coach and mental health counselor who wants to help change the way the world loves by healing unconscious childhood and love trauma that impacts so many adults. She teaches the mindset for success, personal transformation, and creating conscious, loving relationships with oneself and others. Welcome to the show, Riana.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So, if you could tell yourself, do you think one thing when you started this entrepreneurial journey, what would it be? Because you said you were doing counseling before and then you
Mhm.
moved into coaching. Why the shift? And what would you tell yourself if you could go all the way back?
Well, going all the way back, it started when I was 16, actually, and my very dear friend was killed by a drunk driver. And I had asked my mom if I could go to a counselor to help heal my grief and loss. And back then, counseling was not popular. It was a shameful thing. And she goes, "No one in this family will ever go to a counselor." And I said, "Then I will grow up and become one." So put my stake in the sand and I'm like, because kids need help and people need to talk about these things. And this is a big loss for me. And so I decided then at 16, I would be a counselor. But my journey didn't really begin right then as a counselor. I actually was working from the age of 14 at a radio station as a promotional model. And I also knew I wanted to be in broadcasting. So I went to Penn State. And unfortunately, at age 23, my college roommate of 3 years and my best friend was murdered by her boyfriend. So at that
No.
time, I also knew I wanted to do some work to help women in domestic violence situations and toxic relationships. So at that point, I swore I would never stay in one. And, my loss of Corinne was really important to me. But because I couldn't go to counseling at that point at 16, 17, I started reading the masters, Tony Robbins, Deepak Chopra, Wayne Dyer, the Dalai Lama. So my healing was through mindset work. And then I studied the Course of Miracles and Marianne Williamson and other writers on that philosophy. So I really got very strong in mindset work since my teens. And then in my 20s, I actually started teaching at a college, Gannon University, people how to make it in business. So I did PR and marketing, mindset, sales,
Wait,
because
hold
I
on.
had learned it.
Wait, pause a second. So, but you had no business experience at this point, right? And yet you were
Just
teaching a
study,
course?
just study. So
Okay.
when you think about it, and I'm reading How to Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, it's a business book
Think and
and
Grow
how to grow
Rich.
your
We'll put,
ideas.
yeah, Think and Grow Rich. We'll put that in the show notes. I actually just finished it 2 days ago
Yeah, it's
for the
great.
second time.
Yeah. Okay. And Tony Robbins talks business concepts. So everyone I was studying not only was spirituality, another great book is The Seven Spiritual Laws of Success. So I was reading business mindset work and knew that, this mindset around business was really important. And I went and sold myself to be a teacher at Gannon University in Erie, PA. And then I opened up after a divorce. Was married early. I married my Penn State boyfriend, and by 24, 25, had my daughters who are now 40, 41. And then he unfortunately stole a large sum of money from my mother, $200,000. So at 26, I had a $750,000 bankruptcy. And I decided I'm going to open up my own business because I was the one that was told I must pick up my kids from school at 3 o'clock. So no 9 to 5 job would have me. I said, fine, I'll create my job. And I opened a model and talent school and agency. And that was my first business for 10 years. So I opened up with no loans, my first month's rent, 4 people in my first class. By 6 months, I won educational success at the International Model and Talent Association. And then within the year, I won Model and Talent School of the Year, the international award, and had 24 in my class with a waiting list. So, how did I do it? Mindset. So, mindset for success, I've been teaching for 40 years. And I take small town people who wanted to be model singers, actors, dancers, and a small town. And how did they get to the big town? So, I taught them mindset to believe in themselves, taught them the skills they needed to get there, fluent expert coaches, acting coaches from New York, photographers from Hollywood and LA. So their little hometown pictures, they look like superstars. And they all got picked up. I was 100% getting people to get big city offers that meant from little Erie, PA. So I loved the work and it was very creative. And, I went before the Board of Education and I just showed up. They're like, you're going to need a textbook. And there was no textbook on commercial real people modeling at the time. Because I had from people 5 to 83 years old in my company. So senior banking and senior nursing homes, that woman, Hildy, was one of my busiest models at 83 years old. So it's always what I learned from my mentor boss at the radio station. Hun, you got to think outside of the box. You got to do something that nobody else has ever done. Well, nobody was doing commercial real people modeling back then, but I decided to do it because Erie was not a fashion town. So that's where my entrepreneurship really started there. And I knew one day I was always going to be a counselor, but it was amazing as a talent agent and school director how much counseling I was doing. Helping a lot of my LGBTQ people come out to their parents. I was helping kids with eating disorders that they thought they needed to do to be a model, which was absolutely wrong. So there I was doing some coaching and motivating for change, even though I wasn't an official counselor. And at 40, once my kids were launched out of high school and on their way, then I went back for a master's program in counseling, applied clinical and counseling psychology. And then from there, I went on for more certifications and licenses. So being a counselor was further in my journey.
But you eventually got there, which is important to know.
So yeah, I knew it was on the list, but I love broadcasting. I love the talent business because I was in that since 12 years old. My kids grew up in the talent business. So what was great for them, it taught them performance. They were modeling and acting since they were 4. They were on stage, Lexi was on TV at 15. She goes, Mom, I want to be a singer. Well, guess what? They're learning mindset. They learn performance. So she sings on 3 multi-platinum CDs. And now Alexi Panos is one of the top coaches in the world with her husband, Preston Smiles. So all this journey all came together. And then once they were out and launched, then I went back, for my master's in psychology. And it's like, now's my time. And I opened up my practice called Therapy by the Sea, which is now going almost on 25 years that I've had that. And I went to coaching to be certified in 2009 and 10 at RCI to be a life coach and dating coach for singles and couples. And then afterwards went on for mindset coaching certification. And with my master's in psychology, I could go on to be CCTP, which is Certified Clinical Trauma Professional, advanced level. So that was most important for the work I really wanted to do, which is healing childhood and love trauma. So that's the journey.
That is quite a journey. And I love it when people have these journeys that are all over the place because it really teaches, I think, other entrepreneurs that you don't have to have this linear path from like, okay, then I took this and I took those skills and I did this. Like sometimes it can be very different. I want to circle back a little bit to I'm stuck on you teaching this course on business. Can you please tell our audience a little bit when you're pitching something that you don't actually have experience in? What are some mindset advice or any kind of advice really that you can give people? Because there's a lot of people who want to start a business in something they might not have any experience in. It ranges from like people who are starting software companies and they're not actually doing the tech and the software. They just have an idea, right? Like it can range from anything, or people making a career shift. How do you pitch someone when you don't actually have that quote unquote experience?
Right. Well, when I wanted to be a talent agent, for example, I was never a talent agent. I modeled, I acted, I was on television, I did promotional sales for this #1 radio station in Philly. I was working with entertainers. It's a great job for a kid. And I knew I wanted to continue to do that, and I could do it around my children's schedule. That was like the most important thing. What can I do is the #1 question I always ask myself.
Mm.
And when my husband stole the money of $200,000, which was like a half a million in today's money worth, and here I'm a single mom stuck with this burden, it's very easy to get into the pity me party. I'm a victim. What, I can't do this, blah, blah, blah. And I took on the loan because it was the right thing to do to pay my mom back. I said, it might take me a while, but I'll do it. So I didn't focus on the victimization. This is mindset again. Everybody says, well, I can't do that, or I don't have the money for that. There's always an excuse. So I didn't think about that. I just put that to the side and say, what can I do right now? Well, right now I can write the book, the 250-page manual that I need for the Department of Education. Right now, I can teach these people, four people, make it the most outstanding thing, get them jobs and bookings, and then they'll tell other people. Right now, I can do free PR by getting my people on TV, by doing charity work, right? So we do a fashion show for Humane Society, and guess what? That's covered by the news. So now I have free news coverage, and newspapers were big back then. We had pictures in the newspaper. So I took advantage of free media, and that's what helped blow my company up. When it came to teaching professional development for the colleges, I also taught at Stockton University. But by then, I was a licensed drug and alcohol counselor as well. So I had my certification. So they knew I taught at Gannon. Wherever you go, you always get your letter of recommendations. I was always great at doing job kits. So I always put in, I graduated with honors from high school and from college in my master's in psychology. So my honors papers are in there, my grades are in there, letters of recommendations from my teachers, people I've worked for. So my job kit was always impressive. I was the only one interviewing that says, here you go, here's some papers you can read after I leave. Everyone that interviewed had a job kit. Did everyone do it? No, I was the only one. Why? Hun thinks outside of the box. What can you do that no one else is doing? And I use
Mhm.
that philosophy always when I was a therapist. Come in your pajamas, bring your dog if you want. They walk in, there was jazz on the TV and chocolates and gourmet coffees. And it's like, oh, I love coming here. You know, Other therapy offices are so stank and, sterile. I
You
didn't
make
want
it
that
like
feeling.
cozy. So it's like more like
Yes.
a home. Yeah.
Yeah, my police officer brought their canine dogs. It's like, come on in. This is a place where you sit and relax for an hour and let's get you some solutions to your problems. So it was always that early training through this mentor boss of mine at the radio station that says do something different. So commercial modeling was different. So I kind of pitched the college with, you don't have any lessons in PR and promotions and modeling. So I had expert letters from working at WFIL radio. Became head of the team of promotions of 40 girls. I was working with entertainers. I had pictures with me and Freddie Mercury of Queen and other people that, I happened to do being promotions for the radio station. So I could prove what I've done through the years. And those were always part of my job kits.
Mm,
So they changed and grew with whatever job I had. Right now, I probably have in my file like 34 letters of recommendation.
mm.
And people there, well, they can just call my boss. Yeah, but people won't. Isn't it easier to pick up a letter and say, wow, that's an amazing letter of recommendation?
Yeah.
Boom, it's done. Right. So people think the computer is the only way to apply for a job. It's funny, when I wanted to move for lifestyle from New Jersey to Florida, I went on these online, like Indeed and Monster and all those, and kept sending out my resume. And I'm like, believe I'm not getting any answers. So I set up a 2-week visit to Florida. Wasn't sure where I was going to move yet. I went from Fort Lauderdale up to West Palm Beach, Delray, and over to Orlando, and had 17 job kits with me. No appointments. Walked in every door. One of the doors in Fort Lauderdale was for a mental health facility for adolescents. A guy in a very nice suit and tie. I'm like, wow, you look gorgeous today. What a great tie. And he goes, well, thank you. Who are you? I said, I'm Riana Milne. I'm here to drop off my resume. I see that you have a need for an adolescent clinical director. And he goes, do you have a few minutes? I said, sure. And he goes, well, I'm the CEO.
Oh, nice.
Boom, listen to the boardroom. He goes, I love you. Can you meet my board of directors at 2 today? And I looked at my watch and I said, yes, I think I can fit it in. I'll switch another interview around. Did I have anything planned? No. And I went, I got the job. Now, here, I didn't even have my license for Florida yet, for mental health in Florida
Right.
yet. I said, I got to be honest, my license hasn't come through yet. We don't care. We want to hire you. And my house wasn't sold in Florida. So I didn't take that one, but I came home with 7 job offers by
Yeah.
walking in with a resume kit, dressed professionally, smile and energy, amazing. And that is how a lot of my clients who I job coach gets work.
And I
A
think
lot of
what's
my
important to kind of take away from this is also like the tenacity that's involved with just going out of your box. So much of what we do is online now that people think, well, I just applied and nothing happened. I didn't hear
yeah,
a call back. Sometimes, like that persistence, and this is also for entrepreneurs. If you really like someone and you want to work with them and you think you'd be a good fit, be persistent, continue to follow up, continue to be working with them, right?
yeah,
Like, and keep going until you get a solid no, and think outside the box. What are other ways you could like contact them and get in front of them and all of that. So you have
yeah.
like with your coaching, lots going on here. Like some of your creds include being on a series, The Radical Dating: Finding Lasting Love Over 40. You have one
That
of the
was
top
fun.
coaches to follow in 2022 by Wealth Insider magazine. You won an award for top female entrepreneur of the year. When it comes to scaling your business, do you feel like it was rapid? Your coaching business specifically, not the counseling. Do you feel like it was rapid, or do you think it was just little baby steps over time, creating a cumulative effect, a compound effect?
Yeah, I think it was definitely steps at a time. And the reason was before I announced myself as a coach, I wanted outstanding materials. So that required I do research on my topic and write a couple books. So writing a book isn't real easy, like Love Beyond Your Dreams, Break Free of Toxic Relationships to Have the Love You Deserve. I needed to research that because I had a couple love traumas. I'm like, why am I attracting these kinds of people? I'm a nice lady. I work hard. I'm a good mom. And no therapist had the answer. At that time, the term childhood trauma did not exist. Okay. So I went into the psychological libraries, put all this research together, and named it childhood trauma. I was one of the first people speaking on this in 2015. I was told I was crazy. I was told I was making it up. Believe in yourself. Keep going. I knew I had the research to back me up. When another counselor says that you're making it up, you shouldn't be doing that. I said, okay, here's four of my articles from the psychological journals. What part am I making up? So I challenged him on it. He couldn't say anything. He says the problem is it should be in the psychological DSM-4, the diagnostic model manual, and it is not. But in the meanwhile, there's a lot of people suffering with this. So at that time, I named 90 out of 100% of people had some childhood trauma, and I came up with my childhood trauma assessment tool. That was 2012. So now, I'm still researching and proving myself and building a website and making my books. Once I had so much research, went into mindset book was Live Beyond Your Dreams, from fear and doubt to personal power, purpose, and success. That was written first. Then Love Beyond Your Dreams. Then I said, I want workbooks. I have so much information to help people, but I can't just keep handing out pages which my early people in New Jersey was getting. It's like, here's something on codependency. Here's a paper on this. They're like, Rihanna, these sheets are great. You're going to have to do a notebook. I'm like, yeah, in my spare time, you know. So then I did a notebook for couples and I did one for singles. Then I felt now's the time to come out as a coach. And I hired one of the best business coaches at that time, Lisa Sachovich, paid a very large sum of money to work with her for a year.
She
And
sounds
I'm
so
like,
familiar. Where have I heard her from?
she's been around a long time. I needed all the tools and how to break out as a coach. And my daughter Alexi was doing it by then, but they were so busy they didn't have time to teach me. So the one great thing about coaching, you invest in it, it's completely tax deductible. So I'm like, I'm going to learn what I need to do and take business write-offs for the 85,000 that I invested over 3, 4 years. Easy. Well, my first years, I became a six-figure coach because my materials were already written. She goes, oh my God, this is a fantastic program. You're charging too little. You got to
Right.
triple your prices. I'm like, what? You know, because here I had this therapist mindset, like, okay, we
Mm,
charge per session. And
right,
then I
right.
started doing programs. I had Bill Barron as a coach. I have hired easily 15 coaches to grow my business.
Mhm.
So that's how I learned. And the important thing is every entrepreneur should know is you always are learning, you always are growing. Recently, I had an AI coach. So now I have an incredible chat bot on my website, rianamilne.com. You can ask it anything and it gives you the answers because I have thousands of pieces of information in there. My podcast is in there. I had a podcast coach too, right? So every step of the way, I had a coach for it. So you have
Mhm.
to be willing to invest in yourself, invest in your dreams, believe in yourself. Because I
Mm-hmm.
believe if I invest and I get the education I need, I know I will do the work to make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
That's just not a question. And that is mindset. So it always
Mm-hmm.
goes back to mindset of believing in yourself that you can do these things and you never stay stagnant. Okay, I'm in my 60s. I'm okay in tech, but I needed a tech coach. Now I have this cool chatbot. Now I'm about to have another one coming out on a phone, cutting edge. It doesn't exist yet, but I have a developer doing it for me. It should be done this week,
Wow.
so you can ask it anything you want, and it's by phone only. So I'm constantly growing and thinking outside of the box and want to be first. I was the first really talking about childhood trauma. Now there's a whole lot of people, it's a big buzzword, you know. But yes, but I have the education to back it up. So if you're going to be a coach or in any business, get certified, have the business knowledge, be authentic, be real. Like be an expert or don't do it. Like don't do it halfway.
Mm-hmm.
It's like me wanting to be a talent agent. I needed a coach to teach me, and I hired someone out of New York. How do you be a good talent agent? Because I have to do that here in this town.
Yeah.
So it's always hiring an expert to teach me to be an expert in it.
So you're learning from those that have gone before. I want to talk about the, going back to your husband taking the money
Mhm.
from your mother, right?
Yeah.
Um, and then you're in debt and you're bankrupt and you're like, I'm going to start my own business because I need to be the one picking up the kids and whatnot. If you can remember back then with two children, what did your schedule look like? How did you manage being a single mother and also growing a business?
Okay. So it was a split custody. So the nights I did not have my girls, I taught at night. I was still teaching the majority of my classes. It was usually Saturday class and then another group on Wednesday nights when I didn't have the girls. So eventually, then I could hire a teacher for Saturday, go and open up my school, get the teacher started. And I'd say to my girls, okay, it's adventure day. Be ready for a nature park or dress up today. We're going to do something really special. So Erie's in the middle of Pittsburgh and Cleveland. Like one day I came back, it's like, we're going to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's like, yay. So I really made sure that when we had quality time, it was quality time. And then I had school, my teaching, when I did not have them. And, but I had to leave like the Tuesday, Thursdays at 2 o'clock to pick them up by 3, do their homework, cook them dinner, get them to bed. So I had those short days. And then the long days, I'd work 12, 14 hours.
Mm,
Very much in coaching, you're used to a 12-hour day, 8 to 8. Like that's kind of a normal day for me. But on the weekends, I'm done Friday by 2 and I play all weekend. So it's almost like living for the weekends, but that balance works for me. And then I travel when I want to. Like I love vacationing. I love cruising. I actually have a company, Romance International Travel, where I do transformation vacations. But while I was paying off my mom to have the money, I had 5 jobs at one time. So talk about balancing.
wow.
So I was writing a newspaper column called Single by the Sea. I was minister. I am still Reverend Rihanna. I did weddings all over South Jersey, Atlantic City, Ocean City area. I taught at Stockton University part-time, the drug and alcohol curriculum. I had Single by the Sea networking group. So I had groups that they would pay $20 a person to meet up at a restaurant. First drink is free, free food. And I set up probably 10, 15 people that are married and together now. Um, then I had the therapy business. And then I also worked in a school, many schools, as a SAC counselor, student assistance counselor, which helped emotionally upset kids. And that was every grade from kindergarten all the way through Rowan University. I worked as a SAC counselor. So I often had 5 jobs going at one time. So I go
Ah,
to the elementary school, come home and see therapy clients at night. On the weekends, I'd have a couple weddings. Wednesday night, I'd have the singles party. So that is how I was
you
accumulating
must
my
have
wealth.
had to be really protective of your schedule because everything probably had to be running as smoothly as possible. And I know because right now I work 3 days a week and I jam pack everything into those 3 days.
Yeah,
And then I have
yeah.
2 days where my son is home because I want to enjoy those moments. And those are relaxed days, but it makes the other days way more tight and way more stressful. So I
Yeah,
want to kind of I want to talk about this a little bit more, and the fact that like when you're scaling and growing your business, people might look at you and think, oh, it comes effortlessly. Look at these awards she has. Look at this coaching business you have. How
right.
were you able to focus on growth over the years? And what are some effective time management techniques that you can share with other fellow women entrepreneurs, especially maybe women who are coming from a single mom background as well?
Sure, sure. Well, again, getting mindset first is super important. Um, I wake up to three goals a day. What am I going to do today? And if I have time, I'll do these two other things. I have goals for the week. The Sunday night. What do I want to make sure I've done this week? I have more loftier goals for the month. Then I have my 6 month goals. So what's a 6 month goal? When in my meditation, my higher being God said it's time to write the book on love. It's going to be a number one bestseller. And I came out of meditation. I'm like, but God, I don't want to write another book. It's a lot of work, but I knew I had to do it because I was getting all this incredible information and I had to get out there to the world. I'm like, so I go to the beach that day. I'm like, all right, if I want to write a book, it has to be different than any other book. What's it going to be? It's like it's really going to address how to get out of toxic situations and how to find emotionally healthy love. There's no book like that. So it's 400 pages. And I said, I have to have this done before I move to Florida. So that was a 6 month goal. I showed up at my place and there's my book resting against the door,
And
my
how did
sample
you
book.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but like when we're
Yeah.
looking at these long-term goals like that, how did you break it down so you made sure you were getting some of it done? Because so many entrepreneurs can say they have a 6 month goal, and I'm totally guilty of this sometimes. You can say you have a 6 month goal, and then
Yeah.
you keep pushing it off because you're like, I have 6 months, I have 6 months. And then before you know it, you've got 1 month left, and you're like, oh, shoot, I got to push this out another 6 months. How did you make sure you got that done within the 6 months?
It's a combination of a few things. It goes first back to the loss of Michael at 16, where I questioned how much time do I have to have some kind of purpose in this world? Because my best friend was killed, right? It's the first death I experienced. That's first. Second was all the mindset work I did. So I can be very focused. When I want to get something done, I just get it done. Mindset is everything to success. And all the people I read, that was my healing plus my growth. And then I saw the momentum with the talent school and agency that I had for 10 years, and I sold that off. It's like now's the time to be a counselor. So I had goals every step of the way. I was very calculating. I got to do this, I got to do that. And I'm like, how is this going to help me best? Okay, well, if I have a singles club, I bet those people will need coaching and counseling. They're going to build my business. That's what happened, and nobody's doing custom written weddings. Number one bestseller. I'm going to write weddings, and everyone loved the weddings in Atlantic City. And I even married a lot of the wedding coordinators, so everything built on something else. And my broadcasting, speech communication skills from Penn State was always a part of that. My model and talent work as a teenager was part of my social confidence to get out there and do what I had to do. So, every job kind of related to the other. Teaching and performing and being a minister is a performance. When you're marrying two people, it's an important day. So they all kind of intertwined and worked together. And now as a coach, I'm doing videos and I'm teaching. So everything builds on another. But to scale, you always have to have the what is the next goal in mind, right? You never just sit and say, okay, this is working now in year 1995 and this will always be around. It may not, So what's the next thing? AI. How many people are learning that right now? Well, I'm one of the coaches already using AI, and I love it. It's really cool. It's really cool stuff, but it is a learning curve, and I have to invest in a coach, right? So knowing you always have to invest in yourself to grow, people call it pivot. Okay, this COVID thing happened. What did I do? It's like, oh gosh, I have time to write a couple more books. So I've written 15 books now because I had extra time. Stay home, great. What can I do? Well, I can write another book that's on my list on anxiety because my people need it. So it's always what can I do? What is the next goal? All my clients use this goal setting system. And it is amazing how when they came to me, they hated their business, they're burnout, they're exhausted, they have this dream, but they haven't done anything about it. So learning the mindset and healing the childhood trauma piece. Why is that important? Because childhood trauma is where the fear and the doubt, and I'm not good enough, and I'm not worthy, and what if it doesn't work for me, and I don't have the money to invest in the coach. All those fears and doubts is from childhood trauma. So we have to clean that up to make you most successful. So it's amazing people that, do invest with me. Within 6 months, they're getting promotions or doubling their income. They're just taking on a new job and moving to the town that they always wanted to live in. They're just doing what they dreamed to do. And that first step before the goals is mindset. But here's a little lesson that's quick takeaway for the audience. My dad told me at 16, he's there, hun, if you have the 5 Ds in life, you can do anything. And since then, now that there's 8, I added a few to my dad's list. But the first one is decide what you want to do. I wanted to have a lifestyle where I could travel where I wanted, I could work the hours I want, and I loved helping people. I wanted to make a difference in the world. So that is what I decided I wanted to do. Second is desire. I have to desire that more than anything. When I was told my love book would be a #1 bestseller, I had a desire to write that every weekend before, instead of going out and partying with my friends. Like, Rihanna, come out. You've been working too hard. Nope, nope, I'm going to write tonight. So that desire had to be more than going out with my friends because I'm like, I'm moving to Florida in 6 months. I want this book done. All weekend, that's when I wrote. Friday morning to Sunday night, writing to exhaustion. So that'd be 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, get up, write again. Okay. Desire has to be huge. Determination. I am determined to get this book done before Florida. No matter what it takes, I'm going to do it. And I kept seeing the progress and building the chapters. And, this is before AI. So it took a long time and a lot of research. Dedication to the process. I am very dedicated to making sure this happens. I always loved English. I was who's who of American high school students. My mom would say, well, why'd they give it to you? That's childhood trauma, by the way. Parental put downs and doubts on who you are. So it was like something I wanted to prove to myself. I was always a good writer. And it did become #1 bestseller on Amazon, just like God told me it would. Devotion is another D, and that is the spiritual component that's super important that helps you believe in yourself because there's going to be hard times. There's going to be times that things fail that you try. For example, I was one of the first coaches to have an app out there. And I'm like, this is great. Everyone's going to use it. Well, only kids used it, wanted free advice. So it wasn't a great business tool to bring me income. I didn't want to get rid of it. I invested in it. So I kept it about 5 years. I'm like, nah, it's time to go. Then I had, my podcast on, the Alexa box, and that wasn't working out. So I'm like, nah, I don't need this anymore. So you're not going to have all winners, but the mindset says, okay, next, what's next I'm going to try, you know? So is the new chatbot on the phone going to work? I don't know, but I think it's a cool idea and I'm investing in it. You know what I mean? Because I'm one of the first to ever have something like this. And I like being an innovator in my field. So devotion, believing it will happen, doing everything you can to make it happen. If it doesn't, moving on to the next thing. Dare to dream. And he said, baby, dream big. So I always did. I always wanted to live in Florida. We used to have our family vacations in Key West. I'm like, Daddy, one day I'm going to live here. And he goes, I know you will, baby. And that was it. That was like dare to dream and follow through with the dreams that you have. Another one I added was drive. You have to have the drive. That's that work to exhaustion. Telling people no, like I'm not going to see you tonight. I'm working tonight, and having the drive to finish a product or a service or something new that you're coming up with. And the last one is discipline. You have to have the discipline to get through those hard times. So that's a lesson I learned at 16. That's part of my mindset and keeps me going. And it's like, I can do this because I've done so many other of my projects. Again, no bank loan, no one helping me. Most of these businesses I ran by myself.
Mhm.
I had one assistant come in at my talent agency. She stole all the names and thought she'd open up her own talent company. That lasted about 2 months. But I do for my coaching, I do have Rishi and Garv from India that helps me with my website and my graphics.
So what made
So,
you decide to stay small, to stay kind of more by yourself instead of, because I think when I interview a lot of women on this show, most one of the most common threads I hear is in order to scale, you need to grow a team. You need to have extra support. You can't do it all yourself. So why have you, it sounds like you've been very intentional deciding to stay mostly you. Why is
there
that?
was there was one year, probably about 3 years ago, I did hire a very talented lady out of the UK who understood Kartra, my CRM system, which
Mm,
was pretty complicated back then. And I needed funnels built, and I didn't want to take the time to learn it. So I had her for a year and paid her for a year, and all my funnels are working. And I said, okay, I feel great. And then I let her go. The reason was financially, I had 200,000 to pay off. All that profit I was making didn't go to me in my 40s or my 30s. It was paying off my mother.
mm, mm-hmm,
So by 50, I could finally start saving my money and investing in what I wanted. That was a long time to wait and be patient.
mm,
But my mindset was all this is keeping to build to something bigger for me. So by the time I moved to Florida, I could buy my house cash. Then
mm.
I bought an investment property a year ago, my daughter in Austin. So, it's patience and perseverance for sure. I took my pain and made it my passion and my purpose. And I knew if I just kept going, I would be blessed. And that is faith. That's the devotion piece. So the
Mm.
7, 8 Ds were always a part of the success journey.
I want
So
to go.
and then I hired coaches too, Carrie, right? So I
Right.
hired the coaches to learn the next system, built it along with my coaching. I always did my homework, so I would be ahead, not behind in a class. Like if I was going to make an investment, it was going to work for me. That was my determination. So building a school, yes, I was building a school when I was in Eben Pagan's group of how to build a school. I was doing it. Mark Lack, my marketing coach, he goes, okay, this is how you do headers and this and that. He goes, the only one that did them was Rihanna this week, in this class of 75 people. Did anyone else do them? So I was always dedicated to the process. If I'm going to invest, I'm going to do the work. And that's what I love about my coaching clients. It's a notebook, so they have to do so much paperwork, their chapter, give it to me, and then we process it together. So I think it's really important as a coach, you have a curriculum. You have notebooks, you have books. If you do the work, you will get the outcome,
Mm,
right?
mhm,
So my motto, I know you always usually ask, what is your motto to help grow
mhm,
your business? It was help myself by helping others.
mhm,
So in the talent business, I was called the dream maker. One girl says, I love dancing. I want to be a rockette. And then let's make you a rockette. She ends up as a rockette. I had an auto body guy, Michael Lux, and the boys at the shop teased him. Oh, you think you're going to be a model? Blah, blah, blah. He came up and goes, I want to be a model. And I said, you know what? You're a beefy guy. He was like real muscular, cute, long blonde, blonde hair and big blue eyes. I said, you're more of a Baywatch guy. And he goes, oh my God, if I were a Baywatch, that would be amazing. I said, let's get you on Baywatch. So he ended up getting into the talent school. And then my talent coach from New York was flown in and they invested in that. Then he goes to IMTA, competes. Guess what? Michael's on Baywatch. So I was called the dream maker, in the talent business. And I loved it. I love
mm,
doing that. I love making people happy.
mm,
So it's through education, it's through mindset, and what I do now in healing childhood and love trauma that leads to success in business. So I teach them from all my business coaching. You want a podcast? Well, this is what I learned, from so and so. So I can teach them to grow a coaching business or teach them to grow the business that they're in. Like one of my realtors went from 150 to 350,000 in the time that he was working with me.
mm,
So, like I say, what are your dreams? What do you want your life to be? Our slogan is create the life you desire and have the love you deserve. Because when you're happy in your life, you will have the love that you want as well, because your energy is there. The
yeah,
energy
yeah.
is positive, right? And work and relationship go hand in hand. You have to be happy in your work life to be happy in your relationship as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I totally get that. And I absolutely agree with it too. I think a lot of it has to come down to energy as well. And if your energy is there, then you're going to have that stuff like you're talking about, those days with the drive and the determination where you're just investing everything into it because your energy is there and you're focusing on it. So I want to
yeah.
think if you had to distill it down to the three most important steps for growing your business. Now, like I'm going to take a guess here. You tell me if I'm right based on this conversation.
Okay.
I would say mindset,
Yes.
coaches, and then lastly, like a form of perseverance, dedication, something like that.
Well, the 70s I put as part of mindset, but you have to have your ongoing goal setting
Goals.
as well. You have to know, what is my next move? Some people say, yeah, I have this business, I'm so bored. Well, what have you done that's new lately? What are you doing that makes you different from everybody else? You know, and that's one question I always ask myself, even as a therapist, like, what can I do to make my place the place everybody wants to come? What can I do to make my weddings different? Well, they're all custom written weddings. And I did a beautiful memory book written on linen that they had when their service was done. And each one wrote a love letter to each other that I read in a very emotional and loving voice. And there was tears from everyone. How many ministers do that in a wedding? No one. Okay, so thinking outside of the box was my first big lesson on what makes you different. So everything that I took on, what's going to make me different was super important. As a coach, not everybody has notebooks and really solid materials. I would not come out as a coach until that was ready. I was coaching people that were in therapy. I'm very solution focused. And then here's my handouts. This will be a notebook one day, and it's like, so I was. But then once the notebooks were done, then again, I got my system down and then I
Mm,
sold it as a package. And then I just stopped doing therapy altogether. Um, so I think that's really some of the most important things.
yeah.
How can you be cutting edge and different? Yeah.
So you've given us so much good information. If you could distill it down to just one piece of advice for women,
Geez.
yeah, looking to grow their business, if you could just distill it down, what would you say?
Um, It's really hard to say because there's so much advice, but really, if you can identify that there is past childhood trauma, we have to heal that first. We have to get the mindset strong, the belief system there, get a solid plan. And it doesn't always have to be, I have to have the business plan. I never wrote a business plan. I had my plan in my head and my heart. And I'm like, what can I do today to make this business work? Right? So each day you're waking up with purpose and goals to make this business just grow over time. Then when do you have to take on an expert and invest there? And remember, coaching's tax deductible. So, all right, that's going to come off my taxes, but I got to pay this up front so I can grow to this level. How do I do that? Like, how do I do a good podcast, not just open up and say, I'm going to have a podcast? No, I wanted to be one of the best. John Lee Dumas was my coach. He was fabulous. How do I launch Lessons in Life and Love? Well, I launched and it did really well. So know when you have to invest with someone. And it's just keep looking at it as a journey. The journey keeps growing. Keep learning, keep growing, keep looking at the market. What's new? What's cutting edge? What can make me different? How can I add this to my business and make it feel more exciting for me? I'm doing a lot of do-it-yourself courses now, with AI, with the help of AI. So I'm learning that platform. So what can you do that's different, new, cutting edge, that helps bring you in income and that you will enjoy? Plus, you have to have your life balance because if you have no fun in life, you're going to resent your business.
Mhm.
So I was always living for the weekend since Penn State. I worked hard on my grades and it's like, yay, disco time, so I go dancing and have a great time. So I still live for the weekends. I'm at the beach on the weekends. I'm out, with a big group of friends. I travel on cruises. So I still do what I love. And if what you love is in your business, you're always going to love your business. So make sure you love it, and it's always going to be part of your passion.
Mm. I
I
want
think
to
that
touch
was
on
more
one
than one
thing.
thing.
I know, it's all right. It's all right. It's so hard. I want to ask you one
A
thing.
long
You
thought.
said that you gave up your podcast because it wasn't working for you, but then you just said it was doing really well. So why did you give up
No,
your podcast then?
that was putting it on the Alexa machine on the
Oh, okay.
box. I was
Okay.
paying extra for that. I'm like,
Oh, okay.
nah, it's not getting any listeners on there. I don't need that.
All right. Thank you
So
for
it's like,
clarifying. Thank you.
yeah, it's about, yeah, I still have lessons in life and love. I have 125 shows now. So, and that's on every podcast channel and my YouTube. So I have videos, audios, and then, then you can take it and put it into your 1 minute snippets,
Yep.
for
Yep.
advertising
I know
too,
exactly what
right?
you're talking about.
Yeah. So the shorts, they're calling
Yes.
them. Yeah.
Yes.
But then, I also have to have peace with I can't do everything. So,
Unless you
like my daughter,
hire, right? Like, because you could hire and continue to hire out, and like with those things you can't
yes,
do, others could do,
hire out
right?
what you
But
can.
you
Yeah,
made again an intentional choice, and some of that is because you were paying off a humongous debt for years, and now you finally have your money, so you kind of feel like I want to enjoy this for a little bit.
exactly.
I don't want to hire
Exactly.
out.
And then, too, you can't be on everything. Like people say, oh, you have to do social media. Well, I was never thrilled with social media. Do I have presence everywhere? Yes. But am I on there posting every day? No, because I'm doing more important work. I'm coaching or I'm building something new that's more exciting for me. Like I can't even remember over the years. I think I had one person. She was from Germany. She goes, I saw you on Instagram. I said, you did? Like no one comes to me from social media. So how do they come to me? Through speaking. I put my podcast or speaking on another podcast or on a summit. They hear me speak. They say, I relate to this. She's cool. I want to work with her. Like I love her energy. And that's how I get my clients. So know what are you best at?
Mm,
Me being more of a therapist, I was more conservative on video. I use more, I'm an educator.
mm,
I'm not a performer. I'm educating because I care. So it's more that approach than being the humorous speaker on the videos and having all these cool things happen on videos. That just wasn't my style. So know what relates for you. If you love social media and you're getting people that way, then that's your thing. My thing was speaking.
mm. So this has
Yeah.
been such a good interview. You've given us so much advice, and I think a lot that maybe people can
But
relate to. If they want to find you and connect with you, what are the best places to find you at?
always start at my website, rianamilne.com. Try my new chat bot. You can ask it anything and it will give you the answers as if you were talking to me. It's the coolest thing ever. And I am representing this chat bot company now. So if you'd like one, talk to me about it. If you're interested in mentoring, there's a tab at the top, mentoring. If you're interested more in, yes, I recognize I have some childhood things that are holding me back, making me feel fearful about growing my business, then reach out and do a discovery session. My books, Live and Love Beyond Your Dreams, the first 60 pages are free on there. My podcast, you can find anywhere, Lessons in Life and Love. And I think that's the best place. And just contact me through the website.
Thank you so much. We'll put all of that in the show notes. And let's just wrap it up. You already said it. Help myself by helping others, right? That's your one mantra you try to run your business
But I
by.
have one for clients and the listeners too. So that was mine personally.
Okay.
But you can't change what you don't know or understand. So do what it takes to get the knowledge, to understand where your struggles are coming from so you can overcome them and always know that your success is a journey, constant growth and education. And if you have that in the 8 Ds for success, you're going to be fabulous. So that's my quote for our listeners.
Thank you so much, Rihanna. Super duper appreciate it. If you're part of our audience and
Welcome.
you're listening to this and you loved what Rihanna said, please connect with her and also do us a favor and share the show with someone else who might find it interesting as well. So until next time, you can find me on LinkedIn. That's where I'm most active, Kiri Mohan, and or connect with me. Let me know what you think about this episode on Instagram at the Kiri Mohan. So thank you, Rihanna, again.
Thanks so much. So happy to be here. Thank you.